Hello, it's Jamie J, CEO and founder of Bottleneck Distant Assistants, world first dedicated distant assistant company. Really proud to say that. But that's not why we're here today. Today, we're here to talk about ways that you can stop the bottleneck in your business. And we're going to be talking with Natalya Moore, founder of MindEQuity. But before we get into that, we got a little intro. I'm really proud of this intro. Our team is pretty amazing. They put a lot of pride and joy into the work. So we'll be back in about 38 seconds to kick this thing off. Well, hello there. My name is Jamie J. I'm the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Distant Assistants. And if you know anything about continuity, can you tell me the difference between now and just before the intro? I'd love to hear your answers. My name is Jamie again, like I said, and I'm here to help you stop the bottleneck in your business. This is Live with Bottleneck. And today we're going to be discussing how to be the leader that turns organizational attention into market advantage. And we're going to be talking with the founder of MindEQuity, Natalya Moore. So this is going to be pretty fun, pretty exciting. Get ready. And why, oh, why is Natalya going to be able to help you stop the bottleneck in your business? Well, let me tell you. I can answer that. Natalya and the team at MindEQuity work with groups of consultants, advisors, innovators, IT professionals, HR leaders, lawyers, engineers, and others to design work keeping in mind with all 5 elements impacting attention. This is going to be great. Focus better journeys result in sustained value creation and market advantage. In addition to her work with MindEQuity, Natalya is a member of MIT's a member of MIT's, I'll say that again, MIT's social presence and teaching team, is featured in the 2020 Digital Wellness Report and speaks at MacKay CEO Forums and McGill University. In this world of distraction, we face decreased effectiveness and energy. Begin to sustain value creation without sacrificing well-being as a leader and with your teams. As a seasoned Big Four consultant in tech-driven change and awareness-based transformation, Natalya Moore has a refreshingly unique approach. She brings a holistic work design strategy, then supercharges it with MIT's wisdom practices so teams can focus better. A consultant, teacher, and speaker, Natalya helps you and your teams create more value in half the time with the right work design. So we're going to unpack all of that for you here during our discussion today. It should last about 20, maybe 30 minutes. If you feel comfortable enough, please chime in with your questions and or comments, and I'll be happy to put those across the screen so that Natalya can answer those for you or address the suggestions or comments. And if you're watching this when it's not live, no worries. Ask your questions in the comments, and I will do my best to make sure that I can get that forwarded off to Natalya so she can address those there. Without any further ado, please allow me to welcome Natalya Moore. How are you?
Hi, Jamie. Nice to meet you.
Oh, this is fantastic. Thank you so much. I am super excited to talk to you about all of this stuff because I've even coined a phrase around distraction. I call it ESS, and that's called entrepreneurial squirrel syndrome.
That is nice. I like that.
So I'm ready. I'm ready to jump into this. But before we do, I wonder if you can maybe share a little bit about you, a little bit of your background, and perhaps what you're working on now.
Sure. And thanks for having me today. And greetings from Toronto today. And my background, to summarize, is I've been doing consulting, performance improvement consulting, for about 28 years. And I started my career in Texas, in Houston, where I grew up because I was I grew up behind the Space Center, behind NASA. And I funded my MBA by working at a space tech company. So I became interested in our relationship with technology. And my first relationship with technology was really with space technology because we were surrounded by NASA and I was working in that environment. And then I spent many years in the Big Four consulting world. So I became eventually an equity partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers, always working at this intersection of performance improvement, but technology-driven performance improvement. And I was always fascinated with this. What is our relationship with tech? What is our relationship with ourselves and other people, and that together, right? So in summary, my career has really been about performance improvement using technology-driven tools and exploring the culture change that has to do with that.
Oh, that's fantastic. So exciting background. That's pretty cool. It'd be living so close. What brought you to Canada?
Love brought me to Canada about 10 years ago. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Or 11 years ago now. So yes.
Well, you know what? Ironically, 11 years ago, love brought me to Missouri. So there we go. We got some.
And my grandfather is from Missouri, from Steele, Missouri. I used to visit a farm in Steele. And he used to shoot bullfrogs. So that's my connection to, that's my memory of Missouri, right?
I don't know if I've ever seen a bullfrog in person. I've seen them on TV and stuff.
Yeah,
I've never seen one in person there. So I would love to learn a little bit about MindEQuity. You're the founder of MindEQuity.
Yes.
How'd you come up with the name of MindEQuity?
So the name MindEQuity emerged in a brainstorming session with my daughter in a car driving her to some activity long time ago, 2014. And I was trying to find a way to express in terms of a brand, right? How do we invest in the capital that is both sides of the brain, the left side and the right side? And so this idea of equity being like an investment in the mind. And then how do we also train the mind that's in the head and the mind that's in the gut? How do we train it for optimal performance improvement? And that name just popped up. I was shouting out words and it was my daughter who said, "Mom, stop. What did you just say?" I said, MindEQuity. And she said, "That's it. That's capturing the essence." And that's how that was born. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's very catchy. Understand right away kind of what you're talking about there. So can you kind of break down a little bit about what it is that you do? I mean, obviously I read over the bio there, but I'd love to get into this because distraction, I mean, squirrel syndrome, the what? Huh? What? Or if you're on, like right now, I shut everything off. Otherwise something will pop up on my screen and I'll look off to the side. Like, can you maybe unpack that a little bit and talk about kind of how we avoid that or maybe manage it, I guess you would say?
Absolutely. So I think at the core, and my focus is very much on professional services teams. So those teams that really, in order to be relevant in their market, they have to think for a living. And they're constantly innovating, coming up with new solutions for clients, right? So especially, we all need a balance, the right balance between attention and distraction, but especially knowledge workers are now faced in the last 10 years with the evolution of the smartphone. And now everything is exacerbated in COVID because we have uncertainty, anxiety, we have excessive Zoom meetings. So distraction, I think, has just exponentially increased in the last 10 years, and particularly in the last 18 months. What I discovered, having worked in this performance improvement area for 28 years, every year there's kind of a new flavor of how do we maximize performance. And I think the flavor of maximizing performance right now, given the onset of COVID and our new hybrid environments and remote environments, is that there are three major problems that teams are facing. Burnout is on the increase, pretty much globally. But if you look at North American statistics, burnout is just on the rise even in the last 12 months. And that, of course, culminates all the mental health, anxiety, overwhelm, all that stuff. In addition, so that's number one, burnout is increasing. Number two, the ability for us to focus the right amount that we need to focus based on our job role is increasingly difficult because we love all these new tools, because we're forced to be in screens all the time, especially in the last year, right? And because we get a dopamine hit. As human beings, we get a dopamine hit from switching tools, switching tasks.
Something new.
And so it's increasingly harder for us to stay focused. So, and then the biggest other problem, I think, is, when you look at just from a work design standpoint, what is the culture surrounding us that is hindering our focus, or is that enabling our focus? So what is and there are tons of layers to this culture conversation, which we'll get into because that's the topic for today, right? And I agree, culture eats strategy, absolutely. And we hope that distraction is not going to eat culture, is what I would say, right?
Yes.
So my focus is helping professional teams do better work in half the time.
Okay.
Trying to use simple words, right? Because my bio is way too jargony. I agree. When I hear people read that, I thought I'd simplified it, but I'm like, okay, let's cut the jargon. Let's just help teams do better work in half the time. And how do we do that? We focus better, et cetera, right?
Yeah, because one of the things that you had mentioned, a word that's popped up 3 times now, I think. If I go back and listen to this, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's 3 times so far, and I've heard performance. And that has a lot to do with teams. But I think it's really important to break this down into simple words. What does performance mean? Like, do you need to establish a baseline? Where do you know where that performance is okay? Where do you know that it's exceptional? So I wonder if maybe you can talk about breaking that down.
My definition of performance in the last 5-6 years has changed. I believe that performance is aligned with the impact or purpose you want to bring into the world. And so each person, each team, each company is going to have a different definition of performance, which you could also equate with the definition of value. So when I think to what is my purpose, what is the good that I am trying to bring into the world? I am trying to bring some balance into the world. I am trying to help us save our humanity by not relinquishing our power to tools. How can we maintain our humanity by getting the right balance of being in relationship with technology and being in relationship with others and ourselves? So that's sort of the higher purpose. And so for me personally right now in my company, in MindEQuity, and in all the work that I do, I'm always thinking about, how do I measure success? I measure it by, did I help a team improve focus, get more balance, get more well-being, while they are now more easily able to achieve their purpose? And that's individual and collective purpose of the team.
Okay, I love that. So how does the performance, how does the 2 facets that you talked about earlier, leveraging performance through technology or with technology, how do you put those 2 together so that it avoids distraction or interruption, or ultimately wreckage?
Yeah, so it's about the right balance. So if we talk about the top things that are impacting us in this world today, it is the digital overwhelm, the blurring of work time and personal time, which is kind of all in one. In Canada, we're still in lockdown. We're still in a very 100% work from remote, strategy. And in addition to that, we have uncertainty and anxiety. So we have those internal voices also messing with our distraction. So the simple answer, Jamie, is it's about balance. What is the right balance between the human and the machine? What is the right balance between a digital interaction versus just a voice interaction or a physical interaction? And what is the right balance based on our role between logistical activities, which are more prone to task switching or are more, you don't have to be in that really honed in, concentrated mindset to do logistical work. But if your job as a knowledge worker, for example, or as a lawyer, requires a certain amount of value creation that's requiring thinking, you need probably between 2 and 4 hours of undistracted, focused work time per day.
Deep work.
So yeah, deep work, like Cal Newport's deep work. That's where that term, of course, comes from. And if we first understand, based on our role and then based on our collective team, how much deep work do we need versus logistical work, we can start to plan out the calendar. We can start to assess again, are all of the tools that are in front of me in my company toolkit, never mind the personal toolkit, but in the company toolkit, are they all really supporting my value creation? Or which of them could I become a digital minimalist? Which of them can I eliminate so I have less stuff to choose from, even just on my laptop screen, right? So it's about the right balance between which tech is really going to optimize me and distract me less. Or if I am in a company that is using Slack, can I create a culture where we don't assume that we have to instantly respond to every internal message on Slack, where we don't feel like we have to be in all 99 Slack channels, right? So it's, again, everything is about what is the right balance for what we're trying to do. So I'll pause there because I don't know if I'm still answering the question or if I've gone into something else.
This is what I love about that. It's basically making things easier. And I have to say, I have one Slack channel, has nothing to do with my company. It has something to do with outside of the company that I use. And I'm very proud of that. I also, on my desktop, I don't have a bunch of things sitting on my desktop. I've got like 2 little rows, and every single day I go over there, and because sometimes I just get quick and I save the desktop. I go, I'll use that later. And then I'll just drag them into the trash every morning. It doesn't take long, a minute, 2 minutes, just looking over it real quick. But minimizing the distractions. Like right now, when I'm talking to you, my phone is on Do Not Disturb, my cell phone is off, and all of my notifications are off. On my cell phone, on my smartphone, all notifications are off anyways. So I don't get any notifications. If I want to go in and see if I have an email, I have to go into that app to see if I have an email. And since both my wife and I have done that, holy cow, what a massive improvement. Not every 30 seconds I'm getting distracted. So I really resonate with what you're talking about. Someone to me the other day told me he had over 100 Slack channels. I said, how in the world do you do anything else except for go into your Slack? Like, how is anything else getting done? And he goes, I know, I need to get rid of it because it is distracting. Because just before that, before I knew he had Slack channels, he was telling me about how long his days were and how many hours he worked and how stressed out he was and all of this stuff. And one of the things that I was really impressed with what you said is you said balance. Nowhere in there did I hear work-life balance. And I am not a fan of somebody saying work-life balance because it's a life. It's life balance. And because we're spending so much time at work and we're spending so much time at home, we need to be able to balance that. And technology rears that ugly head, or depending on how you look at it, thank God for technology. We wouldn't be able to have this conversation, right? Especially with what happened with COVID. I mean, there's a lot of things, but there's a lot of challenges with it too. And it comes up at home as well as in work. And it's just being able to structure your day in such a way where you can minimize the opportunity for distraction, gives way to, just like you said, that lawyer, that the person that needs to think about things, gives them an opportunity to do so. And as a matter of fact, every year, and then I'll shut up and ask you a question, but every year we come up with a different word. My word of the year in 2018 was focused. Finding opportunities by creating uninterrupted strategy sessions, which is exactly kind of what you were referring to, I think. And had I not really broken that word down, I think I would have been much more challenged than I am today because I really tried to practice that. What are some of the tips that you have for avoiding distraction with regards to the technology?
So, Jamie, I love that you are modeling one of the easiest quick tips to implement with huge impact. And what you modeled, what you're already doing with your wife, I recommend to everybody: turning off all notifications on all apps, or even removing those social media apps from the phone and only using them on a laptop, for example, not even having them on your phone. But first step is turning off all notifications. And how you also talked about the minimal stuff on your screen. And just those two things have a huge impact. Now, when we're talking, so that applies to personal and workspaces, right? When we're focused on workspace or workplace rather design, the most complex design piece is, of course, the cultural piece. So one of the design pieces in culture is, I believe, given this continuing growth in the age of distraction and overwhelm that we have, it is important to consider adding a new value to our list of company values. And that value might be, we have decided as a team, as an organization, to protect and harness attention because we believe it is a valuable asset. We commit to valuing the attention of our employees even more than Silicon Valley values our attention. Does that make sense? Silicon Valley places so much value on our attention. It's their entire business model. It's how they're making millions of dollars. Fine, park that. That's a valid business. It has some negative, impact to the world, but that can be mitigated.
Sure.
But flip it around. Can we value our employees' attention as much as Silicon Valley companies do? And if so, how are we going to do that? If we first establish that baseline, that this is a new value, we're going to harness and protect attention, then we have to ask ourselves, what kind of a culture are we going to create? What behaviors are we going to agree on? What mindsets are we going to be aware of as individuals and as the collective that can distract us, right? Because mindsets can distract us, behaviors can distract us, and how we are in relationship with our tools, not just with each other. That's obvious. How we're in relationship with each other is a known thing we're doing in culture for years, but how are we in relationship with technology? And breaking that down via a collaborative, co-creative conversation in the team or the wider organization, and coming to some clear written agreements on how are we going to behave, all of us, as though we value our attention like money. Let's value it as much as money. Let's value it like the capital, like attention capital, I think is the most underinvested resource that companies have. And it doesn't cost anything to invest in attention capital. It costs only, let's tweak some of this culture. Let's tweak the balance. Let's tweak the relationship with tools. Let's learn how to focus. And let's also design our physical and our virtual environments to also hold space and harness attention.
This is amazing. I think I'm going to add my fifth core value today in protect and harness attention. I absolutely love that. It reminds me, I had a conversation, I forget what conversation it was, but it was a couple days ago. And we were talking about Zoom calls and the distractions, and some people put their video on, some people don't when we have our company meetings. And I read an article that said, make sure everybody turns their video on, because that way that they're there, you can see them. And it didn't particularly sit well with me, which I want to ask you about in my next question, which is gut versus brain. I have something to ask you about that.
Yeah.
And I'm writing that down so I don't forget it. But I'm okay with people not being on the video during our calls. I'm okay with that. Some of people feel a little uncomfortable. Their workspace is now their bedroom, or maybe they're just not wanting to be on TV that day, right? I'm okay with that. But what I've found is a way to keep their attention, if I don't know what they're doing, because they don't have that there, maybe having a conversation that does have a video, and I'll bring up their name and I'll say, what do you think? Thumbs up on that? And you'll see the little thumb up in the screen. That way I know they're paying attention. If I don't see anything, then we try to activate them in some way, shape, or form because, there's some things that there's group meeting. There's some things that some people aren't involved in. They don't need to chime in. There's no reason to. But I felt that that's been a really good way of helping create attention, even though you can't physically see somebody. And so I'm wondering, it goes back to my question that I was going to ask you. There's a lot of decisions that we make to embrace attention capital, as you say, attention capital. There's a gut feeling. To me, that was kind of a gut feeling saying that I'm okay with this. And I wasn't okay with making it mandatory to have everybody turn their screens on versus the brain, the thought. I'm wondering if you can maybe explain the differences between those and how you recommend, which one do you trust? Which way do you go?
So I'm going to answer first your comment about making video on mandatory or not. So I agree with you that it absolutely is.
I was sweating that.
Yeah, because you don't know what's going on in people's lives that day or in that moment. And one quick trick, this is a virtual meeting design trick, or I believe it's a best practice, to have very short meeting check-ins so that everybody says one, maximum 2 sentences. How am I arriving today? I'm arriving tired. I'm looking forward to this meeting. I'm looking forward to whatever we're talking about. And so that you go around the room, so to speak, the virtual room, and get to at least hear everybody's voice. Some are on camera, some are not. And that really sets the stage also for people being focused and with you in the meeting. And the flexibility that you give a team also makes them feel safe. So it's building psychological safety, in my view, your approach to that. So that's very cool. Your question I think your question is, when do I rely on my gut to make a decision? And when do I rely on analytic thought? Right. So you can probably guess what
that part as an example of a
Yeah. Because you're so human-centered, I'm guessing you have really good gut feelings when it comes to your team and your culture, because you're just attuned to that. You're fascinated by that topic. So you're naturally good at that. So that's awesome. I wish all leaders had that skill because they don't, right? But this question about when do I use gut, when do I use analytic or thinking mind? It depends. It's the question again of balance. So this is where so there are several elements to balance, and this element of when do I tap into personal gut and group gut think, and when do I tap into the thinking analytic, or even so the thinking mind is when we're talking, that's up here. Mm-hmm. When we're using data analysis and metrics, that's thinking. And when we are more pausing to be reflective and sense into the feeling of the body or emotion, or we're sensing in the heart, or we're sensing in the gut, that's when we're tapping into wisdom rather than just intelligence all the time. So this ability, and so what has happened to us in the Industrial Revolution and in this information age, and in our heads being in screens all the time, we have lost connection with the brain that's in the gut, which means we've also lost connection and lots of good data from the collective body, which is the team. Because we are so, I was trained in an MBA and in PricewaterhouseCoopers, being in performance improvement consulting, you are rewarded for analytic thought. You're rewarded for being strategic, right? And when we begin to, again, have this balance between tapping into the gut that's in the body, or the brain that's in the body, and the brain that's in the head, we can solve the world's challenges, I believe, faster and better if we are using both. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, because yes, you did. And thank you for that, because I was trying to figure it out, because I probably make more decisions than I should with my gut. Is because it's a way that I feel. Even I have my core values, my 4 that I told you about. Even when I went to go shop for a new truck, the first place we stopped to, 3 of the core values were checked. 1 was not. We left and went to the next dealership. All 4 were checked. We bought a truck. Like I just, that's a lot of my decisions. And earlier on, I made decisions that were very poor, but they were very emotional. And it's very hard for me to transit. We're programmed. Our personality is our personality. I think we can learn more, the more education, by talking to people like you to help us develop ourselves, to make our gut check decisions improved over time. And I love how you use wisdom, and because that's experience, and your gut decisions kind of get better over time because you start to say, okay, I trust you, but hey, versus the for me, like, I'm not good at math. I get really frustrated with it. I'm very impatient when I have to sit down and think. I'm writing a book right now. That is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. Like, revisions and just doing that is very hard for me, for that deep thought, that thinking. And I understand the value of focus, but I feel like I'm just more of a gut check person. What happens when you find someone that leans one way or the other? Is there a way of, as you said, finding that balance? But I still struggle with my deep thoughts. I will lose my own attention and have entrepreneurial squirrel syndrome.
So we can train anything, right? Humans can always learn. We can learn until we die, right?
Yeah.
And so the first step is, you just expressed awareness of what you're good at and what you're less good at. So the first step is this awareness. And that, the beginning of any change or any improvement is, can I be aware of myself and my relationship to this situation in order to change it? And then can I also sense into my team if I'm in a team environment? Because this gut, tapping into the brain that's in the gut, happens on the individual level, and it also happens on the team level. So right now, you and I are in a relationship that we might call a duet. We're kind of in a duet on this podcast, right? We're co-creating a duet right now. And, I'm seeing your head nod. I'm looking at your eyes. I'm sensing into body language. I'm sensing into your energy, because I'm paying attention to that. I find that interesting, so I naturally pay attention to it. But I'm also thinking, oh, what am I going to say next, right? So I'm using this hybrid of sensing into our virtual room, sensing into you as a body and as a head, so that I can co-create this duet with you. So when people become aware that they are not using both, or that they're maybe much more comfortable. So engineers, for example, and lawyers too, tend to be much more comfortable in just relying on data for decisions, just relying on talking a lot, or a bunch of research. Let me get this stat, right? And so when they become aware that maybe they're just too focused on the intelligence, and maybe they're not able to solve a particular challenge with their team faster or in a more holistic way, when awareness arises that, oh, there's another way also to get some data to help us solve this problem. We can use our sensing ability as human beings, right? Whether you call that intuition, whether you call that looking at body language, it doesn't matter. But as humans, we were born with this skill, and we really, I don't believe, use it a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, that really helps out. And it's the biggest takeaway I have from that interaction is we all continue to learn the rest of our lives. I mean, 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason, right? Listen intentfully and soulfully, to engage notably, another word of the year. So yeah, I really appreciate you sharing your story with MindEQuity. Where is someone, as we come close to a wrapping right now, but where is someone at in their organization, this person, this decision maker, or whomever it is, where they may say, you know what, I need MindEQuity. I need to speak with Michelle. Where are they at, and what trigger or what point in time are they saying, okay, I'm now aware of this is who I am, or this is what we're experiencing. I need Michelle's help.
So the points that are prevalent in knowledge worker teams right now. So we've talked about them. One of the pain points is we just can't focus. We have task switching and overwhelm, and we know that we are working too much overtime. And either we've already had burnout in the company, or turnover, or people taking sabbatical, or having too much, not too much, but a lot of sick leave. So we have symptoms that point to burnout, right? High risk of burnout. Then we also, just if we're measuring overtime and people making comments like, yeah, I have to do all my focused work at night and on weekends, and therefore I'm really not having enough time with my family or for my hobbies or for my self-care. That's another symptom. And the other symptom is if innovation is in decline, if the degree that we're producing valuable assets for our clients or for the market, or if innovation is down, that is also a sign. And that's when people want a holistic solution. How do we focus better? How do we increase effectiveness, innovation, and well-being all at the same time with one recipe? And that's what MindEQuity offers, is a recipe through a focus better journey to improve effectiveness, innovation, and well-being all at the same time.
Perfect. Is there any particular size of organization, team level, anything like that you are either more effective or?
Yeah, so I work with teams that are at least 10 people in size, and I tend to work with professional service firms that have 50 employees or more. And I have also to answer this question on how do we identify the pain points to understand if we want to focus better as a team or not. I have a free assessment tool on my website at mindequity.ca. There's a green button on there that just says score your focus. And in less than 2 minutes, you can get a pretty good idea of how well you are able to focus right now. And it walks you through the 5 elements of work design, or the 5 elements that impact our attention. And you can take that, it's a free tool, you can take it at any time. And I also offer an attention audit, a 50-question questionnaire for teams that have reached out to me. And that's more of a deep dive, but a pretty quick way to assess where is our collective team as a whole, right? The tool on my website is for an individual to take, but to get that holistic picture on what's the status of my team, where are we on that front, and then we can determine also exactly in which of these areas, balance or focus or culture or tools or environment, do we need more focus in terms of making some shifts and making some design tweaks in our workplace.
And I would imagine some of those triggers for people, if you're listening to this, some of those triggers that may be like, I don't know what to do next, or asking questions about systems or processes, or which software do I use for this? Or, there's so many different things that could be out there. And if these are things that are common occurrences and people just not knowing or holding on, trying to do that, do I meet you on the Slack channel, or do I meet you? You want me to hit you up on Basecamp? How do you want me to, and if stuff like that is not clearly defined, that, in my opinion, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Jamie, I think I didn't answer one of your questions. You were asking, you were talking about writing your book and how can I be more focused? And I think that one of the key insights that I've had in working with teams for so many years is that tools is actually the easiest thing to fix. So we need to start with, how can I improve my focus? Do I even know how much focused work time I need per day to reach my purpose or my value creation or my goals? So we start with focus, then we start with, what's the culture I'm in? how is culture affecting my ability to focus as much as I want to? And then third, what's the right balance between attention and distraction, between interaction with human and machine, and what's the right balance between the type of work that I'm doing, logistical versus deep, right? And there's some other balance pieces too that we've talked about. But once those three things, focus, culture, and balance, are clear and we understand what shifts we need to make, then we can go to the easy stuff and say, okay, let's have a digital minimalism approach to tools, and then let's design our virtual and physical environment to give us the amount of focus that we need.
And it's always a work in progress. So it's okay for people to trip up. It's just the matter of taking the initiative to realize or become aware of the challenges, the setbacks that may be happening, and just move towards improving. And that's basically all you can ask.
And not to do it alone. Do it together with your team, right? And share. How is this working? Oh, how are you doing this differently based on your role? Well, my role is this, so I'm doing this. And I noticed, oh, you keep, posting just yes, no in answer to a Slack channel thing. Maybe you don't even have to be in that Slack channel, right? Another team member might notice that someone is just having a fear of missing out, and that's why they're participating, with something in Slack without really participating because they're afraid to not be there. But maybe it's okay to say, hey, if you're in too many Slack channels, maybe you don't need to be in that one. You're not even on that project. So why are you, worried about being in there, for example? Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Elon Musk in his meetings, he says, if you don't talk in the meeting, you don't need to be here. Yeah. And it's, and people think, man, whoa, wow, tough leader there, but not really. I mean, efficiency and if you're not going to be involved, why do you need this extra distraction?
See, that's a kind leader. That's a kind leader. You like to lead with kindness, right?
Kindness.
That's a kind leader saying, hey, maybe you don't need to be in this meeting. Do something else. Doesn't mean we don't love you.
Exactly. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap today?
Just thank you for being who you are and leading with kindness, because that can go a long way. And thank you for an engaging, free-flowing conversation. I really appreciate it. And I invite people, score your focus, see where you are, and reach out if you need help. Yes, I highly recommend that. You can, Michelle Moore is founder of MindEQuity.ca. And here's the website. I'll pop that up there. Yeah, CA for Canada. Yeah. Yes, CA for Canada, MindEQuity.ca. Go check out your focus score. Thank you, Jamie. Yeah. Thank you so much. Do you have just a second to hold on and I'll wrap up? Sure. All right. Thank you. All right. Wonderful conversation. Everybody knows my love and passion for culture. And it's so nice, so refreshing to talk with someone who has very similar mindset with regards to culture. And this is kind of interesting to me, the attention capital. That's a new term that I've learned today that I will definitely use more and think about more. I think it's a really good opportunity for you to realize how important attention is, not only to you and yourself, but also to your family, also to your team, and also for the team members within an organization, how important it is to respect others by sharing your attention with them. Things are going to really help out, in my opinion. The more you listen, the more you give constructive feedback. It's just a really good way of, in my opinion, making life better, period. So I want to say thank you so much again for Michelle Moore joining us. She is the founder of MindEQuity, and you can go check out MindEQuity.ca to learn more. And we had a great conversation on how to be the leader that turns organizational attention into the market advantage. I promise you, culture, attention, all the stuff that we're talking about today, it works. And I'm so proud that we had this conversation today. So go check it out. A couple notes here. Coming soon,
to your earbuds, why you need to invest in employees who leave your organization. And we're going to be talking with the CEO of Enterprise Alumni, James Sinclair. That conversation is happening Tuesday, May 11th at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. Please join us for that. Join us for that either on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, and comment away. We'd love to hear what you think. Also, we have launched Live with Bottleneck. It's on YouTube, but you go to bottleneck.online/TV. That'll redirect to YouTube. Subscribe and hit the little bell icon. You'll be one of the first to learn about all of these new conversations that we have. If you want to learn more about Bottleneck Television, just go to bottleneck.online/BTV. And there we have some of our conversations. We've had some amazing people, hundreds of conversations, and some of the fun stuff too, like when we ordered some Bottleneck shoes from Nike. Random stuff. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, go ahead and create your own ripple. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We'll talk to you again soon. Wrong one.